Venezuelan government officials have been deployed to several areas of the country to assess the damages caused by the rains brought by the 46th tropical wave this season. A delegation from Finland arrived in Ankara to discuss issues related to Turkiye's demands for the ratification of the Nordic country's accession to Nato. Palestinian authorities declared a day of mourning on Tuesday following the brutal Israeli attacks that took the lives of 6 Palestinian civilians. From the headquarters of TeleSUR English in Havana, Cuba, this is From the South. I'm your anchor, Gladys Quesada. Now we begin with the news. Venezuelan government officials have been deployed to several areas of the country to assess the damages caused by the rains brought on by the 46th tropical wave this season. Emergency institutions report that on Monday afternoon, the state of Carabobo, Aragua, Miranda, and the capital district were hit by heavy rains, thunderstorms, and wind gusts. The authorities said the nation remains on high alert in view of the continued heavy rains and that the police and fire departments are on the alert in case of any emergency situation. Meanwhile, civil protection has confirmed that 62 houses were damaged in the city of Caracas, while preventive actions allow the evacuation of more than 50 vulnerable families. Cyclone Sitrang struck Bangladesh on Monday night, killing at least 22 people and leaving thousands stranded. The State Ministry for Disaster Management and Relief reports that 19 coastal districts have been affected, nearly 10 million people were taken to safer locations, and close to 8 million people have no electricity as a result of the storm. Local authorities report that sand mining dredgers sank in the Sandwip Channel in the port city of Chittagong's Mishoride Coast, killing 8 laborers. People complain that the heavy rains of the last 2 days, combined with an inadequate drainage system, have left tens of thousands of people cut off, unable to either cook or sleep at their flooded homes. Now we move on to other topics. The Colombian Senate has approved the Total Peace Bill promoted by President Gustavo Petro, which lays the foundation for establishing the process of dialogue and negotiation with illegal army groups. The law had 62 votes in favor and is close to being definitely approved so that total peace becomes state policy. Therefore, future administrations will not be able to change any signed agreement. The bill foresees the possibility of establishing partial humanitarian agreements, the creation of a peace cabinet, and it mandates peace policies to be included in the national and local development plans. One of the issues that sparked the most debates was the elimination of the social service for peace, proposed by the government as an alternative, and the eventual elimination of mandatory military service, as well as the articles referring to the pardon of the young people detained during the social unrests of 2021. At least 1 person died and 2 others were injured in new clashes at a prison in Guayaquil, Ecuador. The National Service for the Comprehensive Care of Adults Deprived of Their Liberty and Adolescent Offenders reported it gained back control of the prison, while work continued to determine the causes of the recent violence. Prison authorities also stated that they were assisting the families of those deprived of liberty following the violent clashes inside the facility. Meanwhile, social organizations and activists condemned the incident and blamed the state for its inaction to address the crisis in the country's prison system. And now let's see a review of the prison massacres reported between 2021 and 2022 in Ecuador. In the last 2 years, 403 people were killed in different prisons around the country. In 2021, nearly 300 deaths occurred in the prisons like Azuay, Cotopaxi, Guayas, among others. So far in 2022, more than 100 inmates have been murdered after the violent events registered in Turi, Santo Domingo, Cotopaxi, and Guayas prisons. The president of Bolivia, Luis Arce Catacora, urged to maintain unity to defeat any destabilizing attempt in the country. During the Congress of the Unique Union Federation of Rural Workers of Cochabamba, the head of the state said that the far right seeks to undertake coup adventures in the country as they did in 2020. Arce urged to maintain the popular cohesion to face in a forceful way this new challenge and stop any coup attempt. This after last Saturday, the governor Luis Fernando Camacho and the so-called civic people of Santa Cruz, who are promoting the indefinite strike in that department, abandoned the dialogue promoted by the Bolivian government on the 2024 census without explaining their proposal to advance the survey process. Meanwhile, also in Bolivia, several roads in the center of the nation's capital, La Paz, were blocked by mining cooperative workers after they broke off the dialogue with the government regarding mining taxation. During negotiations, the mobilized miners proposed a 4.5% tax, which will represent $2.29 per gram of gold sold to Bolivia's central bank. On the other hand, the State Commission, led by the Minister of Economy, Marcel Montenegro, and the Minister of Mining, Ramiro Villavicencio, proposed a 5.5% tax, but no agreement has been reached. We'll take a short break, but first, remember you can follow us on our TikTok account at TeleSUR English, in which you will be able to see news in different formats, news updates, and more. Other stories coming up, stay with us. Welcome back to From the South. In Brazil, recent polls show presidential candidate Luis Inácio Lula da Silva as the favorite for the second round of the elections with more than 50% of the vote. A recent poll published by Research, Intelligence and Strategic Consulting Institute points to the victory of Luis Inácio Lula da Silva, candidate for the Workers' Party in the second round of the presidential election, who leads with 54% of the valid votes against 46% for Jair Bolsonaro. The survey, conducted in 183 municipalities in all regions of the country, gave Lula da Silva an accumulated 50% of the total votes and Bolsonaro 43%. As reflected, there was no variation in the candidates' index between the survey published and the last risk survey, released on October 17th, in which Lula and Bolsonaro appear with the same figures. Brazil's former president and now presidential candidate, Luis Inácio Lula da Silva, participated in the event Act in Defense of Democracy and Brazil at the Tuca Theater in Sao Paulo. At the event, Lula da Silva said he hopes incumbent Jair Bolsonaro will accept an election defeat as the country enters the final week of a presidential runoff. The current head of state, Jair Bolsonaro, had repeatedly called into question Brazil's electronic voting system and threatened that he will not quietly accept losing to his opponent. However, in recent weeks, he has toned down his fiery comments as he seeks to charm undecided voters. According to a poll released last week by the Datafolha Institute, Lula has 52% of the vote heading into the runoff, to 48% for Bolsonaro. And now we move on to other topics. Newly appointed British Prime Minister Rishi Sunak on Tuesday vowed to fix the errors made by his predecessor Liz Truss and warned of the difficult decisions ahead.
To my predecessor, Liz Truss, she was not wrong to want to improve growth in this country. It is a noble aim, and I admired her restlessness to create change. But some mistakes were made. I will place economic stability and confidence at the heart of this government's agenda. This will mean difficult decisions to come.
On Tuesday, a delegation from Finland arrived in Ankara to discuss issues related to Turkiye's demands for the ratification of the Nordic countries' accession to Nato. During the talks, the Turkish side is expected to raise issues related to the request for extradition of persons associated with terrorist activities. Ankara also demands from Helsinki and Stockholm that both states change their political stances and remove restrictions on arms sales imposed on Turkey since 2019. At the moment, the accession of Finland and Sweden to the military bloc has been ratified by 28 member countries out of 30, which only Turkiye and Hungary rejected. On May 18th, Finland and Sweden submitted applications to join the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, NATO, but Ankara blocked the initiative. Now we address other topics. The governments of Russia and Turkey reached an agreement to establish a gas distribution center in the Ankara. Kremlin spokesperson Dmitry Peskov assured that Russia sees no reason to worry that Turkey could abuse its dominant position in the gas market. Russian President Vladimir Putin announced that his country could redirect the volume of gas that it cannot supply through the Nord Stream pipelines to the Black Sea region, creating a gas distribution center for Europe in Ankara. The president of Turkey, Recep Tayyip Erdogan, said that his country will take the necessary measures to ensure the safety of the project. On Tuesday, a car bomb exploded close to a television station in Melitopol, in the newly annexed Zaporizhia region of Russia, leaving 5 people injured. Alexander Molkevich, a member of the Russian Civic Chamber, explained that the events occurred on Tuesday morning. The explosion was heard just as the employees of the Zaporizhia regional television station were entering the building. The injured are workers and civilians who were passing by at the time of the explosion. No military personnel were injured. The blast also caused serious damage to the building, equipment, and other assets of the TV station. And we have more news coming up after a final short break, so stay with us. Welcome back to From the South. Palestinian authorities declare a day of mourning on Tuesday following the brutal Israeli attacks that took the lives of 6 Palestinian civilians. Palestinians also declare a comprehensive strike throughout the Gaza Strip in solidarity with the city of Nablus. According to the presidential spokesperson Nabil Abu Rudaina, 6 Palestinians were killed and at least 30 wounded in sweeping Israeli raids in Palestine in what the army described as an assault targeting the emerging army group known as the Lion's Den. The United Nations recently stated that more than 100 Palestinian fighters and civilians have been killed since the start of the year, the heaviest toll in the West Bank for nearly 7 years.
Today, I woke up and went to work. Then, I heard that 5 heroes were martyred in Nablus. I could not bear to hear about what is happening in Nablus. Why is all of this happening? What does Israel want? Israel is killing us every day, so I immediately closed my shop.
China's Bureau of Statistics reported that the rise in investment, consumption, and export for national economic growth contributed with other factors to the country's steady economic recovery in the first 3 quarters of the year. According to the statistics body, from January to September 2022, final consumption expenditure contributed 41.3% to the economic growth, while the nation's gross fixed capital formation, which measures investment, accounted for 26.7%. Supported by a series of preferential policies, foreign trade remained resilient in the first 3 quarters, with the net exports of goods and services contributed 32% to the economic growth. Lastly, China also launched targeted public employment services this year, arranging vocational skills training for the youth, as well as broadening employment and entrepreneurship channels for rural workers. At a press conference in Beijing, Zhang Tiewei, spokesperson of the Legislative Affairs Commission of the National People's Congress of the People's Republic of China, said they will strengthen legislation in key, emerging, and foreign-related areas.
Will strengthen legislation in key, emerging, and foreign-related areas, in drafting legislative plans and formulating or amending laws. We should base the work on the legislative requirements set forth at the 20th CPC National Congress, making an in-depth analysis of the legislative needs for building Chinese modern nation, integrate legislative decisions with the reforms decisions, and promptly respond to the demands and the course of development of the party and the country and to the concerns and expectations of the people.
China responded to accusations by top United States officials that the Chinese government is undertaking an unrelenting campaign by intelligence operatives to subvert the U.S. justice system and steal commercial secrets.
I'm not aware of the specific circumstances of the relevant cases. I would like to emphasize that China has always asked its citizens to obey the laws and regulations of the countries they are in. Some people in U.S. law enforcement have a Cold War zero-sum mentality and ideological bias, and have repeatedly fabricated all sorts of excuses and lies to smear China, and irrationally suppress China's business. They have openly provided shelter for Chinese fugitives and obstructed China's effort to chase down fugitives, turning the U.S. into a safe haven for the corrupt and for lawbreakers.
School students in Pretoria, South Africa, built a train powered by solar energy, intended to ease troubles of commuters plagued by an unreliable electricity supply. The locomotive can travel 60 kilometers and has 4 solar panels attached to its roof. Train is the cheapest means of transportation in South Africa, making it the option for the poor and working class. However, a combination of cable thefts and power cuts have left many commuters stranded in the last couple of years. To solve this problem, a group of 20 South African teenagers developed a solar-powered train to ensure efficient rail transport in the country. The prototype train has a roof covered with photovoltaic panels, which makes the innovation practical and feasible in the sunny area. For now, it can support 10 return trips on the track installed on the grounds of the school.
The roof is made up of 4 monocrystalline solar panels, which are highly efficient as compared to other forms of panels. And it is yielding 385 watts of electrical energy. The solar panels themselves, they are providing the sufficient energy to fill the batteries with a capacity of 10 kilowatts. The train has lithium batteries, 10 kilowatt lithium batteries. And since the installation during the test, it has never been, the energy from the batteries has never been depleted.
My role as an engineering, graphics and designs was to make sure that we do precise measurements to check on the angles of our solar locomotive. As you can see, it has a certain angles, even on top of the roof where we mounted the solar panels.
This problem, a group of
We have come to the end of this news brief, but remember you can find this and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. And also, if you feel so inclined, please join us on social media for all the latest news. We are on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Telegram, and TikTok. For TeleSUR English, I'm your anchor, Gladys Quesada. Thank you for watching.